On that very evening after Jesus rose from the dead, although at first the apostles did not know that he rose from the dead, and so that's why they were in the upper room that is locked behind closed doors. And their hearts were truly troubled, and they were filled with fear and anxiety. That is, their spirits and their souls were crushed after the events of the last several days. That is, when Jesus died, they died also. That is, all their hopes and dreams came to an end when Jesus was crucified. And the report of the empty tomb that came back to them didn't bring them any comfort, for they thought then that the authorities would probably think that they stole our Lord's body from the tomb, and so would come after them. And so all their hopes and dreams were lost. That is, there they were, trembling and afraid in the upper room. That is, thinking that it is time to just give up, to give up on our Lord. But our Lord did not give up on them. And also, the same is true for us. We must remember in those darkest days and times of our own, that is, when things seemingly have come to an end, when our souls and our spirits are crushed. That is, we've all gone through times like that in our lives on earth also. It is, even in this last year and a half or so, filled with illness and financial loss, that is filled with all kinds of fears and anxieties with the things going on in our country and in our world. Perhaps we too at times feel our souls and our spirits crushed. And perhaps it is such the case that, like the apostles in the upper room, sometimes we too feel like just locking ourselves behind closed doors in a little room and not wanting to come out. Perhaps there are those times even when we question or lose our very faith. That is, we feel like we want to give up on Jesus. But the good news is that despite how we feel, that is, Jesus will not give up on us. There's an old fable that is about a man who became lost in the jungle, and he wandered into a great bed of quicksand. And so as he began to sink, a few men appeared to him. That is, the first was Confucius, who, seeing the man's situation, he said to him, "It is evident that men should stay out of places like that." The next man, Buddha, observed the situation, and he said, "Let that man's plight be a lesson to the rest of the world." The third man, Mohammed, said to the sinking man, "Alas, it is the will of God." But as he sank further and he lost all hope, it is then that our Lord appeared to him, and he simply said, "Take my hand and I will save you." That is, sometimes we forget when we're so enwrapped in our own pain, in our own situation, in our own sorrow. It is then that we forget that our Lord, even though we might not feel his presence, is certainly present to us. He is ever standing before us with his hand outstretched to save us. And so even though we might not feel that he is present to us, we must know that he is always there, eager to help us, eager to save us. That is, we are never alone. Never is there a time when he isn't present. And it is he who will ultimately restore that peace and that joy that he wants each of us to have in our hearts. And also, in a very special way, we must remember our Lord's greatest gift to our Catholic Church, his real and true presence in the Eucharist. And that presence is ever here, always here, present in every Catholic church. And our Lord becomes real and very present to us in the depths of our heart when we receive that presence, for our soul receives the most incredible form of nourishment that it can have on this earth. And so we must always remember that our Lord is ever present to us in a very real and a very concrete way here at church also. It's interesting to point out that even after our Lord appeared to them, we are told that the apostles were terrified. That is, they couldn't conceive that it was really our Lord that was present to them. And that is why he said to them, you know, to touch me and see that I am truly real. And also, he even asked for something to eat and then ate that in front of them. That is to show that he is truly real, that he is flesh and blood. And so too, with us, we might find it too incredible or not real, perhaps, that our Lord is just as present to us as it was to the apostles also. And it is, and through that presence, we are told in our gospel that the apostles' minds were opened. And that's an important line for us all. That is, when we acknowledge and know that our Lord is present to us, it is then that our minds are opened also. That is, our minds are open to the truth of who he is. And not only that, but he gives us a clarity of mind to see what our next steps are, or it gives us the guidance and the strength to move on. That is, God gives us that same gift of peace and clarity of mind that he gave to his apostles also. And so it's very comforting to know that even though we might feel at times that we want to give up on our Lord, we can always trust that he will never, ever give up on us. And why that is simply because he loves us just as much as his very first apostles. He loves us, and he has actually promised that he will be present to us always, that is, even to the end of time. And so a great little prayer to remind us of his presence is perhaps the prayer, what is called the prayer of St. Patrick. And that prayer goes, Christ with me, Christ be for me, Christ be neath me, Christ above me, Christ to my right, Christ to my left, Christ near me, Christ here.